I am Manson. True story. This is how the Joker became my alter ego. So, as far back as I can remember as being a kid, in my younger days, like most of us, I was into art and comic books. Now, not like today's society, I was not spoiled with all this technological advancements that we have. And a lot of us know that we were kids that grew up and had to go outside. I'm a product of the 80s, so I got my kicks reading comic books, drawing stuff, and running around through the neighborhood. And I always vividly remember, like, I'm diagnosed with ADHD. I remember getting diagnosed with ADHD when I was 6, so I was always a little bit more hyperactive, a little bit more rebellious or rambunctious as a kid. So when I would read comic books, I would relate to characters that had that type of appeal or persona, where they were a little bit more odd, so to speak. And I remember, as I said, since I was a product of the 80s, being 8 years old. I was born in 1981. I remember vividly because it was about around that age when you really start recalling. Now, some people can recall. I can recall some memories vividly, a little bit when I was like 3, 4, 5. But around the 6, 7, 8 mark, you go into school, you can really kind of vividly recall stuff a little bit more in detail. So I vividly remember around that time while I was reading comic books and things sticking out, my mom took me to the 1989 premiere of Tim Burton's Batman. And so I'm watching this wide-eyed with amazement as a kid, like, well, this is the coolest thing ever. Like, Batman's got all these gadgets, and it just stuck with me, Jack Nicholson playing the Joker, with how eccentric he was when he's doing the Prince scene and he's throwing the paint all over the paintings and just doing stuff to just basically show, like, hey, man, I'm an outcast, I'm a rebel, I'll do what I want. That kind of stuck with me. And I vividly remember the scene where he shoots the Batwing, where he's drawing the giant pistol out, puts it on him, and then they get up in the sky, and the line, "Have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?" stuck with me. Vividly as a kid, I remember this. So I start thinking to myself, like, it'd be cool to have like a alter ego or persona or like some superpowers like that. Just not thinking nothing of it. I start drawing, kind of, playing around with some stuff. At this time, I have started to delve into music, but I had just started playing the violin. So, I ended up playing the violin for 10 years. So I started getting kind of a feel for who I was as an individual at this time while I'm drawing comic books. I fast forward a couple of years into the future, probably around the 11 age when I'm in middle school. And at that time is when I'm about to become into preteen, adolescence. I really vividly remember I'm reading the comics and I really kind of relate to the Joker and his stance on things. It's a controlled chaos, but it makes sense. And I'm like, man, yeah, they say he's a lunatic or he's crazy, but really he makes a lot of sense and he mirrors Bruce in a lot of the ways. So I remember that sticking out to me as like, man, is he really a villain? Is he really a bad guy? Yeah, he's a bad guy because technically he's breaking the law, but other than that, his moral standings and his compass, there's, if you put some thought into it, there's some logic behind it and it's not madness. So that kind of stuck with me. I start getting into the music and I kind of start delving into the whole face painting thing. At that time, I remember very vividly being into rock music and Marilyn Manson was starting to come onto the scene. So that was one of the people who inspired me. Now, I caught the wave before he really blew up. I saw some of his first work and I saw his stage presence and his persona and makeup and stuff. And I was like, that's a pretty cool way to garner attention is what I thought. It reminded me of like wrestling, WWE. I'm seeing like a persona, comic books. I'm like, there's an ego or alter ego there that they're playing up to. So it kind of stuck to me. And I started really kind of experimenting in it, showing up to school with my face painted up, white out, doing the whole, like the Crow, Marilyn Manson stuff. And so that's where it really started, where I iterated with the white face paint. And now this was like in the middle of the day, it'd be April 7th at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. And I'm walking around the street like this. And people are like, it's not Halloween. I'm like, I know. Every day's Halloween if you want it to be. So I kind of just had that mentality. And I start kind of getting into the music, doing rock stuff. And at that time, I'm still reading comics, still kind of got that whole persona about myself exploring music. I end up catching a felony charge. And I did some time in TYC and then get transferred to TDC. So it was in there where I really started honing the Joker stuff, because I started writing raps for the first time. And while I'm in there writing these raps, I start thinking to myself, when I get out, I can market this. How am I going to push this? Now, unlike many people in the prison industry, because it is an industry, unlike many people in there, I took advantage of what they had to offer, because you can get free college and you can get free trades. And I was like, if I'm being here and I got nothing to do, I'm going to take advantage of this and get a college degree. So I did go to Alvin Community College and get an associate's degree in marketing for liberal arts and learn how to market myself, because I knew if I'm going to take on the role of trying to be some type of entertainer, personality, musician, the number one thing I'm going to need to know is how to market that to the public, to get correspondence, interaction, etc. So I started kind of scheming up, okay, man, I like the comic stuff. I can draw. Who is somebody I relate to that I think the public would relate to? And instantly it just kind of hit me like, dude, Joker's arguably the number one biggest villain of comic book history. And in many circles, he's considered number one. So I was like, hey, man, let me try this out. And it really started with me doing voice impressions and impersonations where I'm trying to correlate each Joker with the voice. And once I got good at that, I just started trying it out. I was like, man, let me paint my face up. Now, how can I take this iteration to the next level? So at that time, obviously, I'm out of jail. I'm rapping locally. We start doing the Live from the Block. And I saw star power, and I knew that we had presence and ability to draw some eyes in and bring a crowd to the room. But I knew I needed to do something to push it over the top. And at that time, shout out to Molly G's. Molly G's is one of the people that pulled me to the side and is actually the person responsible for recruiting me at the helm of all that. Before anything took off, before there was ever a battle, he pulled me to the side, got me to basically be like, hey, man, we want to recruit you. We think you a tough MC. And I wanted to be one of the silent investors and use what connects I could to help get us off the ground. Working with him, he helped me realize, give the people a persona, give them an alter ego, because you dope as hell and you say some crazy bars, but you're a disrespectful person and people don't like, even if they like it in the moment, they don't like cheering for it because it makes them feel some type of way. It's kind of taboo. And I understood that. And he's like, so you can keep giving them Pac Manson. They're going to respond. You're going to have some highs. But if you want to take it to the next level, give them a persona. And so I was like, well, I already been doing this. Let me just jump out here with this Joker stuff and see how it plays out. But at first it wasn't the Joker, it was just the ski mask. I was like, I'll do the voices and you want to know how I got these bars. And just play around and do promo and see how it goes. And once I started doing the promo, it started catching. And I saw, okay, they feeding into persona. Even if they don't like me, they like the persona. And it's a whole wrestling thing now. Even if I'm a heel, they either going to like to cheer for me, they're going to like to boo for me, but I'm getting a reaction. And that's what I need to get in order to attain more success. So I showed up with the white ski mask against 9. This was after we brought Disaster out. I have a rematch with him, go out to New Mexico to battle. And the very first iteration was I had it rolled up like a beanie, like a toboggan. And in my third round, I pulled it down. And that was like, okay, I'm going to transform into this character that's like a masked persona or a white face paint and see how it goes over. And it went over really well. So once I got back into town is when I started thinking, how can I utilize this in my music? How can I utilize this moving forward into battles? Because the people are interacting with it. So naturally, what's the Joker got? Face paint and makeup. So I painted the mask like the Joker to embody my version, to still show that I'm a replication of the Joker, but it's my presentation and it's different. It still lends the hip hop credibility to what I'm trying to do with the ski mask and the attire look, but you still get the chaos that is within. And once I started putting that on albums, on wax, I started getting, the correspondence and networking with people like Mike Will and Zaytoven and getting production and traveling with them, getting booked for shows and seeing the people on the road. Now, I was telling her, one of the instances I thought of, and I can vividly recall, was this past summer when we had the Juneteenth festival that we discussed earlier out in Utah. I was kind of skeptical. A, it's my first big national paid tour that's sponsored by a mega corporation. B, I'm out here at the amphitheater. I told her, I don't want anybody to misinterpret this because it's a Juneteenth festival and I'm coming on stage in a white ski mask. I don't want them to think anything else. But I came out and addressed mental health right out the gate to get their, interaction. They loved it. They corresponded with. So at that point, I was like, okay, I'm doing something right here. Keep running with it. Go get the full suit, do the makeup, do shows, do battles, put it into music videos now. And so that's why also when we discussed coming out here, I was like, I'm taking the persona with me because wherever it goes, people see that, they recognize it, they feed into it. I actually met a guy the other day at a music video shoot for the first time. He didn't know it was me because I didn't have a ski mask. So he's like, I ain't know it was you because I ain't, I'm so used to that. So based upon that is really how it came about and came around to be, given my past experiences, drawing, doing the voice animations, because it wasn't always Joker. Like, I'm a big Spawn fan. Like, I got Spawn tattooed on me as well. Spawn's my favorite comic book character. So I would always like Violator and his little slapstick comic and witty wordisms, but he had the face paint. It was a clown. So it was always kind of in that theme. On the hero side, it was always Spider-Man and Deadpool, because they always had the witty, quick one-liners and stuff. So all that, I think, helped culminate who I was. And then battle rap actually just happened to be a great catapult springboard place for it, because it is one place where you can fully embody the chaos that the Joker is. Say completely crazy, disrespectful stuff, and people not only encourage it, they anticipate it, because that's the nature of the sport. And in doing so, it helps shed a lot of light onto my music as well.
You see a situation like what Heath Ledger went through, taking on a persona of the Joker, of course, his untimely passing.
Yes.
And then, of course, the role of taking on the Joker persona, what it could do. Does it ever have a sense to where the lines get blurred in reality before you, like, you go to the restaurant and maybe the persona may come on without you knowing?
I can say in 100% confidence, absolutely yes. Absolutely. And it's crazy that you asked that. My buddy, my personal engineer, DJP, has been around me for a long time. So he actually brought up that very specific situation and was like, okay, let me put it to y'all this way. Heath Ledger portrayed and embodied the Joker and went into method acting for about 2 to 3 years and completely absorbed himself in that role to pull off what he was attempting to pull off and ultimately did pull off. He says it just like that. And then he says, Pac has been doing that exact same thing for 11 years now. He did it for 3 and went crazy and lost his life, and I've been doing it for 11. And there are absolutely times, more often than not, I believe it's in times of anger as a reactionary thing, as opposed to just being calm when we're at a restaurant and I'm, slipping to, hey, you better get me this now. But I have noticed there are times when I'll literally realize, whether I'll be on Facebook Live screaming at somebody, or I'll be on the road driving, or I'll be out in public and somebody just say something different, and I'll completely slip into that embodiment and I'll catch myself like, yo, bro, you gotta chill. You the Joker for real. You're gonna end up in prison just like him. Like, so it has absolutely happened. Now I'm able, to curb it, and keep it more of a music thing. It definitely comes out, you see it on stage. When you're on stage, I just let it go, so, but I don't do it as more of an aggressive way. He was more of an aggressive, let me rob from the mafia and give it back to the people type thing. I'm more of a, let me seize opportunities that are given to me. And this is where I say the Joker thing now, because it goes a little bit deeper. The Joker always had goons. He always had henchmen. He was always willing to get on the front line and do things himself, but he always had people that were believed in his cause or whatever and willing to do it as well. That's another reason I fully embody the Joker, because I absolutely have that. And whether it's because I want it to be that way, or people have always in my life always felt some type of protective need around me, and they're always real quick to stand up for me. A lot of it has to do with, I guess, the way I conduct myself, my humbleness, the respect I give others. But they feel real protective of me. And I hear stories about this, like Bizarre and Royce the 5'9" talk about this with, like, they're real protective of Eminem like that, and Marshall. So I feel like, okay, I'm out here clearly willing to do what others won't, but people are believing in me and doing it. So that kind of goes to my head sometimes, like, man, you really are the Joker, and people are really out here, like, no cap. Like, I went through the relationship breakup that we discussed. My brother literally beat up the baby mama's new boyfriend. just cause he wanted to fight. And I'm like, I'm really the fucking Joker. So like, you know, at times it gets to me and I think about that because I'm like, yeah, I'm embodying it and acting it, but people are believing in it and also willing to take it to situations that are more than just music. So at that point, it's like, okay, you also have to be self-aware to realize, you know, you can't slip at the wrong place because you're going to slip into a situation you might not find yourself able to get out of. So I tread it very carefully. A lot of weed. I am Pac Manson. True story. This is how the Joker became my alter ego.